Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing Palates. I am Aaron Loomis, and I have along with me June Liu. How you doing, June?
Pretty good. Chilly night here, but great weather to still enjoy.
Yeah. So tonight we are doing a recap of the Hoyo de Monterrey 2015 Habanos Añejados. Hope I pronounced that right. This is basically a project that Habanos is doing where they are taking cigars that have been aging for quite some time. Then they go ahead and ship them out. I think what's the term that they're trying to do with the age range on these? Is it like 7 to 9 years or something like
Yeah,
that?
somewhat in that range. I don't know what this Hoyle one, you're seeing '07 box codes, and with like the Monte Cristo Churchill
Hmm.
and the Romeo Julieta, I want to say there's '07 or '08 as well. So,
Okay. So this cigar is basically a Corona Extra Vitola, so 5 inches by 48. Um, all the details are, out of Cuba. Wrapper, binder, filler. The factory code on this box is GOP, and as you mentioned on this one, the date code is November of '07. So I guess close to 9 years. Um, so it's got supposed to have some good age on it. So pre-light experience. What did you see with this cigar?
um, there's not much excitement that came out of this one for me. It was like a Colorado Claros. There wasn't much of an oily sheen to it, and stereotypical of a lot of Cuban cigars out there. The veins were, for the most part, they're unpressed, and that's
Mhm.
one of the things I could tell if it's a Cuban wrapper or not. Um, so aside from that, it's. I thought that the cigar was a little bit tight when I was feeling around the cap area.
Mhm.
So hopefully at that point that didn't translate into a tight draw. But the head itself, looked good. Uh, Typical wallet here, triple cap. In terms of the pre-light aromas, when I nosed the wrapper, I got a little bit of a like a dry black tea that I rarely get, but that was a pleasant smell.
Mhm.
Got a little bit of a faint cedar. Um, the foot smelled like sweet hay, a little bit of cedar, a little bit of barnyard. And the cold draw was just namely just, natural tobacco notes, and a little bit of a tingling pepper. So with all that said, not much to it than just your regular looking cigar, Cuban cigar.
Okay. Yeah, medium brown color. Slight variations towards the lighter side of brown. Veins visible, just like you mentioned. Seams were pretty easily visible, but they were kept tight. Um, the head on this cigar was very flat. Is it kind of the same experience you had?
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't like a typical Parejo kind of an oval cap.
Right.
It's almost like they just kind of chopped it and then put a cap over it. So
Yeah, the most thing I could liken it to is like the CAO flathead. It was just very,
mm.
it just came to a very flat end. And that's not very common with most of the Cubans I have experience with. And I'm not sure if there's many other Cubans like that.
Not that many.
Okay. Typical Hoyo band, white band. It has a secondary band that says Habanos Añejado on it. And I'm pretty sure that that band is um, the identical band that they're doing on all the cigars that they're kind of putting under
Hmm.
this type of release. So the bands don't play together well. Um, and I don't think that was their point to make that happen. It's like I don't know, like a burgundy-ish color
No,
kind of thing. So
yeah.
they don't complement each other well.
Off of that
Um,
Hoyo white
exactly,
band.
exactly.
Yeah.
The Hoyo band is very nice, elegant looking, and then this band is just like whatever. I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, Pre-light aromas, light hay, a little bit of leather and barnyard from the wrapper. Foot was like a mellow dry wood to me. Pre-light draw was woodiness. Also got a little bit of dry cocoa powder from it. Even got a little bit of saltiness. which was unique, I guess, to me. So that was pretty good. Regardless of flavor, first, third through final third, kind of take us through your experience there.
Sure. So before smoking this, I kind of had an expectation of not getting much, and I guess in a way, I was judging the book by its cover of not getting such a great looking sample of the pre-light experience.
Right.
And I also know that through smoking, especially the Monte Cristo Churchill, it was pretty bland.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Romeo Julieta, I don't know how those that I had, and I've only smoked these when they first came out, and that tasted nothing like an aged cigar. It was incredibly oily and peppery.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so given this, when I first lit it up, I had a really huge amount of sugarcane-like sweetness to it. The cream was really full. It's a very full body kind of cream. In terms of minerality, I described it as a consistency and like the taste of crushed rocks. And I got good amount of hay, cedar. Through the retrohale was really pleasant. It gave me more of that minerality, and it increased on the cedar. And I got a little bit of that, more of that black pepper spice that I got through just regular draws. The finish was pretty mundane. It just tasted like charred wood, but the finish was really long of tasting that charred wood for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first third. On the second third, I felt like the creamy sugarcane-like sweetness was amplified, and it became almost buttery as well.
Mm-hmm.
I got more of that pepper, especially recognized it through the retrohale. And at that point, I felt like the pepper was just enough to give it that extra body and that rounded aspects of the flavors. And towards the latter half of the second third, I started tasting this. So when I taste stone fruit, so for this one, it tasted like the stone fruit was rotten. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes it kind of tastes like a stewed stone fruit, kind of a consistency. So I got rotten stone fruit, and mm-hmm. through a couple of draws, I actually tasted a soapiness to the cigar, which was really weird. It didn't play well with the other profile notes, but luckily it was just within like 2-3 draws that I actually mentioned in my written review, but I thought about not mentioning it. But it was such a unique note that I never taste,
right?
That I put it in there. And at that point, the finish was just more that charred wood, a lingering charred wood. Mm-hmm. Going into the last third, the last third is mainly two flavors going at it, which is the cedar and cream. So along with that, kind of the cedariness, that crushed rock minerality played a part in it. And when they blended all those three together, it was just it was a smooth, balanced profile. And at about 1.5 inches left, the cigar got really hot, and the strength picked up for me as well, because within the first and second third, body and strength was, I would call it more of a solid medium. Mm-hmm. But at the last third, towards the last, that 1.5 inch to 2 inch mark, the strength kind of it snuck up on me. It gave me a little bit of a head buzz, but nothing that was bad. It's just right. It's a stronger cigar at that point. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Yeah, for me, right off the bat, was getting some woodiness, a little bit of pepper in the background, and then the retrohale was a little bit of flip-flop. So primarily pepper, some of the wood in the background. A few more draws in, I was getting a little bit of a mustiness that was mixing in with the wood and pepper. 3/4 of an inch in or so, cream came into the profile, and it mixed really well with the pepper and the wood. And then the retrohale kind of settled down a little bit. Pepper mellowed out, and then a little further in, the creaminess faded back, mustiness ramped up a little bit for me, but it was still a really nice mix with the wood and the light pepper. And then nearing the end of the third, the creaminess ramped up again. Still, wood, mustiness, pepper in there, and then the retrohale was still pretty mellow with cream and woodiness. And what was interesting in this third was the strength level. Right at the beginning of the cigar, it was kind of, I would classify it as medium full in strength, but it was maybe for a quarter inch, half inch, and then it's settled down into the medium range. So I just kind of thought that was a little interesting how the strength profile looked there. Moving into the second third, woodiness became more defined as oak. It was the primary flavor. Cream mustiness, more secondary flavors. Half inch in to the third, the oak mellowed back out. Still a primary flavor, but really good blend. With the cream and some of that mustiness that was there. The retrohales started to get a little bit of minerality to it, so kind of what you're talking about with the crushed rocks. Probably kind of what we classify, how each of us classify that. About halfway through the third, the mustiness left the mouth flavor for me, and it moved into the retrohale, and that was the only place that I could still sense it in the profile. A little further in, I got that dry cocoa again that I got on the pre-light draw. So that was interesting that it came back. Usually some of the things that you get in the pre-light, you'll never experience in the actual flavor of the cigar. So, but it was neat that it popped in. As the third wrapped up, that cocoa went away, and the retrohale was primarily oak, but still had some of the creaminess in the background. In the final third, there was a little bit more of a brightness to the flavors. I almost want to classify it as mintiness that I was seeing, and that was going along pretty well with the oak. Creaminess really only on the retrohale at that point. A little further in, mintiness went away from the mouth flavor, and then was only present on the retrohale. About halfway through the third, primary flavor is still oak, a little bit of creaminess. And then as the cigar kind of finished out, primarily oak, and the creaminess, kind of fluctuated in its level of how it was mixing in with that oak. The retrohale lost the mintiness, and it was pretty much just a mellow cream and a really light woodiness. So second, third, and final third, strength level was medium, kind of the rest of the way. So it was really just the beginning of the cigar that had it. So I didn't get the heat at the end, and I didn't get the strength increase. It kind of stayed there for me. So that's
that's interesting. You talk about getting the strength in the first third.
Maybe I smoked the cigar, but maybe I smoked the cigar. I lit the wrong end or something. or you did. I don't know how it worked.
Or I did. Or we smoked through the band. Like, it's cool to do apparently on Facebook groups.
That's right.
But because typically, I mean, for the vast majority of time, I'm way more sensitive to nicotine than you are.
Right.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, I would think that for me, that experience where you get strength up front, I would typically think that is in a younger cigars where you get a bunch of strength up front and then it kind of mellows out. So it was just kind of just an interesting way it worked out. Performance-wise, burn and draw, kind of what did you see here?
I thought the burn was subpar. The wrapper, the cigar itself, I never had to relight it and it burned the way through. But at certain points, the entire wrapper didn't burn. So I got, sometimes these chunks of wrapper that's unburnt, but it kind of burned around.
Right.
So on top of that, was the ash itself held on fairly tight, and I averaged about 1 inch marks. So, aside from the wrapper not burning, which it is a big deal for me because that, the wrapper is where a lot of the flavor is, right?
Right.
So, so moving on to the draw, I thought the draw was pretty poor. So when I was feeling the tightness around the cap and the head in general within the pre-light experience, that actually translated into a tighter draw. And for me, the draw was tight enough that the focus was partially on that, as compared to what it really should be, which is the flavor experience. What about you?
Yeah, for me, the burn was really good through the first 2/3. The ash held on for each third. So pretty much right at the transition point, the ash dropped for the first third and second third. So that was pretty cool. Um, Second third was, I mean, the final third was different. The cigar went out on me a couple times, so I had to do a couple of relights. So that was a little disappointing after the way the first two thirds were. The draw was fairly tight the entire way for me, similar to you. And based on the flatness of the head, I didn't want to go for a second cut because I didn't want to compromise the caps and maybe have an unraveling situation. So I kind of just, it wasn't bad to the point where it was, I don't think, really affecting the cigar at all. It just wasn't my preferred draw level. So it was tight, but it was fine to let it go. So no, nothing big. So overall, give us your thoughts on this cigar.
So overall, as what I expect from a well-aged Cuban cigar, I expect flavors that are well balanced, and that there's nuances and complexities, and there's no sharpness. So I expect all of that, and I'm not too sure. It's not. I'm not too sure. I know that that's not what I got.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say that I tasted ammonia off-putting flavors, any things of that nature, but it did taste a little bit sharp to be a 9-year-old cigar.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me question, so first of all, within the sample that I smoked, is there a consistency issue within the box that I got, right?
Right.
So, that's question. That's a question. And another thing is, I just didn't feel like with the increased price that Habanos SA charges you for these aged boxes, it's worth it. And
Mm-hmm.
and lastly, how do they age these? Right, like when you age a box of cigars, there's a way to do it in which it needs to be very scrutinized,
Mm-hmm.
especially for something that's you're nearing vintage level.
Right.
So to me, basically what I'm trying to say is I didn't taste that this was a well-aged Hoyo. As a matter of fact, I've tasted Hoyos that I have from, Epicure number ones and twos, and it's more like Epicure number twos that are more within the same vitola of this Añejados. I've bought boxes a couple years or so ago from 2012 that tasted just like this,
Mm-hmm.
if not more balanced and melded together.
Right.
But I'm not to say that it wasn't a tasty cigar. I really enjoy the flavors out of it, and it tasted very Hoyo-esque,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the amount of cream and that little stone fruit that comes in, and the cedary aspect of it, and it's like a mouth-watering kind of a cigar for me, and that to me is very Hoyo-esque,
Right.
and the medium side of the body aspect of it. So, but is it worth buying these for the increase in price? It's not. I mean, I'd much rather take the gamble and get Epicure 1 and 2s at a fraction of this cost any day of the week over this.
Right. Yeah, I think I had a similar experience to you in regards to whether or not it was worthwhile for this special project. I thought it was it was a good cigar, but it wasn't anything special. So, there's definitely an increased price point on this. Probably not worth it for the dollar. But I think I had a different experience with you in regards to the age factor. And to me, I almost felt like this cigar might have aged out. It was just very mellow, pretty low key. So I'm just wondering if maybe it's seen better days, previously. I'd be very interested to have been able to maybe, smoke something like this maybe 3 or 4 years ago
Mm-hmm.
and just see what the profile would have been like then, to see if it would have been any different. Maybe the flavors might have been a little brighter or a little fuller or something like that. But with it being mellow, anybody can smoke the cigar. You're not going to be offended by strength or flavors are too full or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you have the opportunity to smoke one, smoke it, give it a try, see what you think. If you already have these, I would say don't sit on them. I would say at least smoke a few, see what you think, and then based on what your experience is, judge if you want to keep them around and keep trying them later on, or if you feel like you need to just get smoke through the box because they're the best that they're going to be now. So I think it's really just going to be based on the experience you have, and what you said may be true is that the consistency through the box may not be there. So if you smoke through 3 or 4 of these and it's up and down, you may just have to sit on them for a little bit and see if that changes or not. You may have some great experiences later down the road, or they may just keep declining. I really couldn't say, but I think it's a cool project. And we have another one coming up down the road that we'll try on the Partagas side. So we'll get to see how that works out as well. So,
and that's one more thing I wanted to talk about was, so it seems like you and I have very different flavor experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that through reading other Cuban cigar forums and just other reviews, mainly on the international side of things, some people found it to be absolutely bland and mellowed out and really aged out. Whereas some found it to be more of the experience that I got, which was, flavor forward, flavors being there, and questioning if it really is 9 years old.
Right.
So there seems to be definitely an inconsistency within the boxes out there. And the thing is, we both smoked just one sample of it. So this is based upon, just, right. I mean, granted, we did smoke 2 cigars out of the same box, but, that gives another call out for how inconsistent it is. So.
Right. Yeah. So score-wise, I gave this a 6.13, and you gave it a 5.47. So overall score is fairly close. How do you think your score lined up with your experience?
I think it's in line with what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I think for this guy, some of the killer notes were kind of was the burn, and then the draw as well. So the construction definitely played into the total score, but in terms of flavor profile, given if it performed better, it would have scored higher.
Mm-hmm.
But at the point that it scored, especially given the tighter draw and focusing on that tighter draw, it's fair to be at that score.
Yeah. My score I think fits right. It's a good cigar. It's not anything special. So that's what that is. Had higher hopes for this type of a cigar with close to 9 years on it. But
right.
You have to try it and see what you get out of it.
Yeah.
To really be able to say whether or not it's worthwhile to go deeper on it, or if it's something that needs to be smoked now or not. So that's really my thoughts on it. Any wrap up thoughts on this cigar?
No, I'm still under the band camp of not being a believer in the Añejados program. Mm-hmm. But they're fairly new into this, because so far there's only been 4 Añejados cigars released.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to smoke all except for that Partagas one. And each of them are either mellowed out or doesn't taste like an aged cigar.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. If you're just catching this review on YouTube, be sure to check out the site, developingpalates.com, for the full written review. Be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Google+, all those places. You can find us there, and stay on top of all our recent reviews that we post up and editorials. I think that's it. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks, Jiunn.
Thank you.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time.